Okay, Frank, I was reading up a little bit about you. First of all, I'd love to know a bit about your backstory. I do know you've been a consultant, a PR and marketing consultant for almost 13 years now. Tell me a little bit about yourself first and how you got into PR and marketing.
Well, I graduated just before the 2008 crash, and then realized that the work it wasn't the most friendliest time for the for the British workforce in particular, but in Europe. So I went to South Korea and I was a teacher for 18 months, teaching a wide variety of kindergarten students and also high up as the military and so on, predominantly English, but a range of subjects and so on. But my heart and gut always told me that I didn't want to quite be a teacher, although I still enjoy it and I do the odd guest lecture at universities and so on. So at 24, I joined my sister, who's a freelancer, and we formed a marketing and PR agency when I returned to the UK. So we set up and we had two clients at the time, and we won a big national park account, opened an office in London, and then went on to win around 6 agency awards, won some major contracts with 4 national European tourist boards, won
Yeah.
some big accounts helping IKEA, H&M launch new brand, and other accounts ranging from Sonos, renewable energy organizations, electric vehicles, and so on. So everything went from there, really. And I took charge of the agency around 10, 11 years ago. So I headed up overseeing the servicing of how accounts were managed and directed, utilizing the team, and also
Yeah.
overseeing business development as well. So that's my story in a nutshell. This January, I've taken a step aside from the agency, and now I am quite focused on my next step and my next endeavors, and that is a bit of consultancy servicing for a range of agencies and in-house clients.
Hmm.
And I'm also looking at some other potential projects as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really exciting, Frank. There's a lot to like unpack here. First of all, I wanted to ask you, I mean, PR must have it really has changed, right? Over the past, not even decade, over the past, I would say 3 years. So tell me one thing,
Yeah.
initially when you started out, this agency with your sister, first of all, that sounds very, very exciting. And, you seem to have had really amazing clients and the awards and all of that. Must have been a very exciting time. Frank, how do you see the industry, the PR industry shaping now? And do you feel organizations have a better understanding of PR? Because I don't know, I just still feel like big organizations, smaller ones, I feel with them it's so trial and error. It's like hit and miss, whatever works. I don't think there's a lot of planning which goes into their PR. Uh, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I guess that PR is as much an force of integrated marketing and integrated communications more than ever before.
Hmm.
However, there's still the traditionals of generating a big PR stunt or a big campaign that generates a lot of publicity. And now there's just a more diverse range of platforms, from influencers, from content distribution, affiliated marketing with PR, as well as the good old powerhouse newspapers, magazines, bloggers, and so on. So I think PRs
Yeah.
have never had such a good time because it's more. PR's become a method of communication as much as anything of an organization, and it falls into everything from a creative idea that generates a newspaper story that can then be turned into an advert, an influence video on TikTok, Instagram, and so on. And how it's changed pretty much is when I was first starting, I had mentors who had found some of the top 10 agencies saying, so are you up to date with your social media? Are you offering clients social? And of course we were 13 years ago offering clients social media, but
Hmm.
the evolution of technology and the cross discipline required has never been so good.
Mm.
in public relations, and it's hugely integrated with areas such as SEO, where high quality backlinks are the creme de la creme of a part of an SEO strategy,
Yeah.
from something like CNN or the Guardian, or a major national newspaper. So it's
Yeah.
just become more broad, and you've really got to think and define your target audience depending on what that organization's strategy is. So to answer your question, I think some
Mm.
organizations are highly strategic with how they're doing. I've worked with some incredible clients, particularly consumer electric goods clients, who really know how to push their big PR machine and have
Yeah.
very good systems, but also creative as well. So it
Yeah.
really does depend on the organization, and of course the agency, and how dated the agency has become without
Mhm.
having a refresh, and ensuring that it's utilizing the youths as well as the experience.
Absolutely. Actually, Frank, well said, because you're right. PR, it never works in silos. It's all interconnected. You touched upon something, influencer marketing and influencer PR. Um, I mean, what's your take on, you know, integrating influencers into a PR campaign for an organization? I remember initially when this started out, influencers on Instagram, on, well, now TikTok, on social media, I think a lot of organizations kind of like poo-pooed that. But I really feel a lot of big brand names, from the big to the small, they're all going through influencers now. That's the way they do it. So, what's your take on influencer marketing?
I think that influencers are just an add-on to the media.
Hmm.
They are no different to a TV show that in its heyday in the, let's say, 90s, when TV
Oh.
was at its peak. They are similar to a presenter going on a
Mm.
cooking show and demonstrating a new brand or something like that. I think
So true.
influencers are such an important part of the media, and they
Yeah.
are the media, and the sector is becoming more and more professional. I think with the rise of AI, the originality of content from influencers will never be more important, because consumers are looking for more authentic content as well. And unfortunately,
Yes.
whether it's good or bad, if you look at what children want to be, is often they want to be influencers and so on. So I think
Yeah.
because the media platforms are so much more varied, target audiences relate a lot more to influencers like never before. And you can see that in various demonstrations of energy drinks that have gone viral and so on as a result of influence. But influencers are huge and they're really important. And I think one side that's often missed with influencer marketing is the sense of what is the purpose behind that campaign, and what is
Mhm.
the do good factor to it, and how do we make it less commercial, and ensure that there's this reliable media form of information, which isn't fixed paid, or a form of propaganda for someone or something.
But Frank, that's really refreshing. I think you're the first PR marketing person who's ever, said that to me about the do good aspect of the brand of the product. Um, you never really hear that. It's very rare. I mean, for them, it's just the numbers, right? So why do you think like that?
Well, like I say, I believe that the influencers are here to stay, and I think the media have an obligation to attempt to report the news in a non-biased
Yeah.
way, to try and manage their conflicts of interest. And
Mm.
the influencer industry is just an emerging media sector as well, and
Yeah.
they have a big impact on the young. And we are in a more purpose-led world nowadays. When you look at footballers like Marcus Rashford and so on, there's people, famous celebrities, sports people, influencers are now selecting what their courses are a lot more, and thinking about that. And hopefully, long may that stay, that there's that environmental or social or community aspect to their work. But they definitely have an impact on social behavior, and yeah, it's hugely important.
Absolutely. Frank, we were talking over this on email as well, and you mentioned it right now at the start of the interview. You're very excited about these two upcoming projects of yours. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, based on our current research, there are around 60 million Americans who are freelancers. 39% of the US workforce have done some form of freelance work. Yet the number one challenge for more smaller network collective freelancers and small businesses is new business and business development. So we're currently developing a platform which will deal with those two challenges, to build a more collective workforce, a more collective global workforce that forms teams and has the ability to ease freelancers work in business development. It's the middle ground between freelance freelance websites that provide opportunities for freelancers to bid, and mega agencies. We're trying to create something in the middle there. That's one, and then the other is helping. I'm working with a couple of organizations to focus on more people agency side, but it's very early days, and I'm playing a consulting role in one, and taking the other one a little bit more seriously. So
Absolutely.
that's a big challenge at the moment, and we've had some investment so far, so that should be quite an exciting one.
That's amazing.
But
Frank,
I'm also doing lots of freelance and consulting work as well. So I'm working with quite a few different agencies and in-house organizations.
absolutely, Frank. And I think since 2020, since COVID, I think companies are now more open to freelancers, consultants. I think before 2020, it was kind of like, it was really like a shot in the dark, like approaching organizations for consultancy work, freelance work. Now it's like really opened up, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think we're in a post-pandemic world, and what the society wants and desires now has completely changed from the 9 till 5, 9 till 6
Yeah.
office job, and location and flexibility has never been more in demand. And
Yes.
it's finding how the global workforce can tailor to that. And also as I said at the start of the interview, the range of what's required
Yeah.
in marketing, PR, and communications, the skill sets required there. It's so diverse. You need a range of tech people, UX designers, you need writers, you now need AI, AI programmers and so on, as well as the creatives, the social media experts, and so on. So there's
Yeah.
such a diverse range of skill sets required that a
Yeah.
traditional agency or in-house team just can't tailor for that right now. And I think that's going to be an interesting side to how things go in the future, and that's why I'm kind of hedging a little bit of my bets on the rise of collective teams.
Absolutely. Frank, tell me one more thing. When I was, thinking about your career, thinking about what PR, the industry, what marketing must have been like over a decade ago. I remember because, my background is journalism and media. I've been a journalist for the greater part of my career. And I know like the media model has changed. And I know when I get press releases, because I freelance for a whole bunch of publications, I know how easily now for me, it's like, the author, I don't know if you've read his book, Malcolm Gladwell, I
Yeah,
think in his book, Blink, he's like human beings, they judge the other within like 5 seconds. And I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
and I feel like as a journalist, whenever I get a press release or an introductory email from someone pitching their brand, it's the first sentence, and I'll judge whether or not I can write about them, or if it interests me or not. Frank, how do you approach getting in touch with journalists and media houses for coverage for your clients? It's really tough, isn't it, now?
Well, no, yeah, I do agree, and it's the 10 seconds you take to read an email before believing whether it's beneficial or a waste of your time.
Yeah.
And I think With the rise of AI and various things like that, I think that the human side of quality writing is a really unique thing. I think AI is a tool, and I think the individual who follows current affairs trends and has creative ideas will continue for a while to outcompete AIs when it comes to highly original, unique ideas. And in order to pique a journalist's interest,
Thank you for saying that.
for the journalist to judge whether something is good or not, it's all in the idea and all in the
Yeah.
purpose of what's going on within the world as well. But journalists, I've worked with journalists for such a long time, and they have such an important role. And they're the foundation of society at the moment, and long may that go on for. And
Yeah.
there's tools that might help enable both PRs, communicators, and journalists, but it is always the human side that's still required.
Absolutely, Frank. Thank you for saying that because, the fear these days, especially now with Chat GPT and, other tools like Bard, etc. I mean, there's so much fear in the industry, in the media industry, vis-a-vis replacing journalists and replacing writers and even
Yeah.
possibly,
Well, yeah.
marketers.
Well, this is what, like, you can see now some really awful posts occurring on like various social media platforms that have clearly been done by some AI bot, which just look highly generic and follow certain standard that
Yes.
don't really have the ability to create interest. And
Yes.
I think that I think the ones that are overly using chat GPT and so on for
Hmm.
their work are the ones that aren't doing anything that good. And I
True.
think that creativity is a unique human currency, and uh, if 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 that's it's if you look at the greatest PR campaigns or marketing campaigns and advertising campaigns,
Hmm.
they've been spoken about and trended by billions and billions of people. And maybe that will
Yeah.
happen at some point with AI, and but someone that who is just copying and pasting something from a bot at the moment is boring most people.
That's so true, Frank. Thank you for
I
saying
might be wrong in the future, though. I might be right. I don't have robots to come and chase me.
that. Frank, tell me, in your career, have you faced any challenges in the industry vis-a-vis, let's say, when you've approached, let's say, a particular PR campaign for a company, given, or if you talk about now, given the current climate, how do you approach a PR campaign? How do you approach your work? Someone brings you on board as a consultant. I'm not asking you to give your secrets away, but I just want to understand your mind. How does it work? How do you approach it? How do you approach PR?
Well, I think that it depends on the organization, and then you've got to really factor in what the problem and the challenges of that organization, because they've opted to work with you because you have presented them with an idea and a solution that you can help fix their problem.
Mm,
Uh, this might often be down to they're short of ideas, they're short of know-how, they're short of skill sets, and so on. So
yeah.
everything always you always have to work your way backwards a little bit, and then
Mm,
build a brainstorm and a creative idea on how they can, whether it's increasing sales, whether it's increasing traffic, whether it's increasing brand awareness, what you need
mm,
to do with that. There's always multi-layered disciplines and tactics. Press office communication is something that occurs on a weekly, daily basis. Whereas a creative campaign might happen, every quarter or 6 months, where there's a large scale investment. So you've
yeah.
got to win the gatekeepers over who make the decisions with a campaign, whilst doing ongoing communication work for that organization. But my approach is to work your way backwards and then win the people over with your ideas.
Absolutely. Frank, a couple of years ago when I was in university, I interviewed this journalist. He was quite prominent, even now, Nicholas Kristof. He was with the New York Times back then.
Yeah.
And I remember I was talking to him and he was telling me, I don't know how we went on to like PR and things like that, but we were talking about PR for a cause. And he basically said, he was like, Sonia, whenever it comes to, let's say, particular campaign, let's say hospital for cancer patients, for instance,
Yeah,
raising funds. He said it never, you will always have to give a face to the campaign for it to resonate with audiences. And Frank, that's
yeah,
something which is always stuck in my mind. And even as a journalist, I've always been very drawn to campaigns. I've had this, you know, it's just triggered something in me to write about a particular campaign, given the story behind, let's say, one particular individual that the brand has benefited. Do you think that's still important today? The face of the brand?
yeah. I mean, you just have to look at like the person with the biggest voice in the world. One of the biggest voices in the world at the moment is probably Elon Musk. The
Yes.
one in the UK that generates a lot of online and media attention is the British royal family. You've got charitable courses. You've got certain business CEOs that make a comment, and the share price and stock prices is fluctuates and so
Yes.
on. And the human side is essential, and humans relate to humans, and you only have to look at a TV commercial or a YouTuber willing to tell their story to see that the human aspect of any campaign is a really important one, and that's why the power of celebrities and influencers is there as well, because people like fandom. And that's never that hasn't changed, for thousands of years. If you look at the Romans and the gladiators and the idolization of this and so on, but humans need something to idolize often.
But Frank, does it make you feel a little, I don't know, like disillusioned or maybe a little cynical? I mean, having this entire Kardashian stamp on the influencer stamp on brands and, soaring sales. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, wow, where's the depth?
Well, it's like the newspapers attempt to create stories that will sell newspapers, and
Mm,
the higher the circulation, the more adverts they sell, and so on. And the brands go to the people who have the most views and the most hits. And if the Kardashians have created a documentary series where they can also commercialize on what they've created, then they're a business entity, just like a newspaper, or even a journalist that has built their profile up and is highly respected. It's
yeah,
ultimately, everybody's out there to grow themselves and their audiences, or to do something. And it's the same currency as a politician. And some politicians
true.
aren't trusted, and some politicians are. And what wins them the votes, and how they try and relate to the huge range of target audiences, whether it's the majority of religious orientated people, or left or right leaning people, and so on. They will attempt to put on different faces, and
Absolutely.
that's how the world works. And if you want to try and sell
Unfortunately,
something, you
it's
have
the
to.
clout. Yeah,
It's the cloud, but it's humans are stuck in tribes and cultures a little bit, and
so
you
true.
it's a big old system that we exist in, and
Absolutely.
everybody's fighting for a platform often.
Frank, I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to young PR professionals who are just starting out? What should they, I mean, number one, first of all, what do you think PR today is not, why do you think it's not as effective as it should be? I want to know your personal take. And the second part of my question is, what do you think young PR professionals should be focusing on?
Okay, so my guess, my well, not my guess, is my recommendation, based on having established quite a range of different teams in my life, is
Yeah.
when you're starting, be prepared to graft and learn the ropes.
Mm,
Be prepared to deal with rejection, to thicken your skin, and make sure that you're constantly looking to learn, because this is a very evolving industry. Build your network. Constantly look to expand your skill set when you can.
Yeah.
But focus on what you enjoy,
Mm.
and the best performers are the ones that can recommend a task that they've created themselves, and take that forward. So, there's the grafters, and there's the also the ability to create a task, and improve something for someone. But
Absolutely.
and yeah, of course, networks and the ability to write as well helps.
Absolutely. I think, Frank, gone are the days when, because, I used to have that thing up till a couple of years ago that I just want my work to speak for itself. And I think now in this day and age, you have to promote yourself. You have to put yourself out.
It's profile building, and part of your is part of your skill set in as a communicator in the PR is to build up your profile so you can distribute the message as well. And that's part of it, and that's part of a journalist story. But if you're an investigative journalist, what do you need to do
Yeah.
to raise that awareness? But I think that the PR sector, if you look at the growth of the industry, I think
Hmm.
it's become a lot more saturated, but it's also a lot more competitive. And I think I don't think the industry's dropped. I think it's just diversified and changed its habits a little bit more
What
than
do you mean,
anything.
Frank?
Going back to your previous points.
What do you mean
Oh,
in what way?
sorry.
What do you mean it's diversified and changed? In what way?
Well, I think it's become more integrated with advertising and marketing. So it's not just about dealing with journalists and stories. There's a whole different range of attributes to an agency nowadays as well.
Absolutely.
So you might be viewing it that the industry's dipped as a result of the poor level of pitches that are occurring, but more energy might be also going in elsewhere as well, which therefore it doesn't provide the same number of the quality that you might have received in terms of PR pitches 5 years ago or something, maybe.
Absolutely. And Frank, I want to know a little bit more about your career regarding like a particular project that you took on, something that was very gratifying where, it was challenging, but super gratifying. I'd love it if you could, maybe walk me through it. How long did it take? How challenging was it? And how did you approach it, mainly?
Oh, you put me on the spot there. So, I mean, I've worked on probably about 50 client projects in my life.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed trying to raise awareness for a electric vehicle infrastructure project, to try and take a slightly technical topic, and making it as simple as possible to raise awareness for the need to increase infrastructure capacity for electric vehicles from like 10% of all vehicles could be electric, to trying to get it to 100%. And that was working with the Financial Times and journalists and so on to kind
Yeah.
of act as a lobby for the electric vehicle infrastructure project. But I've also like worked on we've City of Culture bids,
Yeah.
which was hugely fun because we had to connect with lots of different celebrities and various people like that, and try and create as many strategic partnerships as possible. So raising awareness for one location, and looking to
Mm.
utilize the hundreds of different businesses and individuals involved to
Wow.
promote their message, such as like Tour de France winners, and Hollywood actors and so on. So that's yeah, trying to figure out how to communicate a location has also been quite a nice
Wow.
thing. But also we had to help H&M and IKEA launch a new brand, and that was pretty much creating a strategy from scratch.
Wow.
And we just did some quite cool campaigns for that,
Frank?
where we spread 3,000 posters and yeah, so on
Wow.
around London.
But Frank, like approaching an established brand like H&M, when you go through that, like you said, you had to, like do that from scratch, the campaign. But in a way, isn't it kind of like fixed because you can't really reinvent the wheel with a big established name? So how isn't it tougher?
Well, they were launching a new brand, and it was the first time IKEA and H&M had collaborated.
Wow.
So that was a whole new brand where I studied sustainable leadership management with Cambridge University, and a
Yeah.
big focus of that was the importance of shorter supply chains, because the more local products come from a circular economy,
Yeah.
such as some plastic waste that can then be turned into some kind of sculpture and then sold as a candle holder or something like that in a shop. That was a big aspect of it. So it was creating this hyper local brand and trying to find local people who could contribute to their supply chains, and then launching the brand. So it was, yeah, starting from nothing on quite a fresh concept,
And how long did
for
that
two
take?
different locations.
How many
That
months?
was an 8 month. That was an 8 month project with 3 phases. So it was quite a cross discipline of starting with PR, media buying, influencer campaigns, and things like that.
Wow.
But I mean, my favorite work was probably working in national parks, because there's the huge environmental aspect, and also all the small community businesses that are involved that rely on
Yes.
you bringing in like visitors or customers to
Yeah.
their organizations, to ensure that the community economy survives as much as anything.
Absolutely. You know, when I think about Pakistan, like there's so much we can do over here. Like there's so many beautiful tourist spots for domestic tourists,
Yeah,
for national tourists, and you're also benefiting the communities that are living there. And the crafts
yeah.
in different areas around the world, they're unique, from the type of fabrics they
Pakistan
use.
is one of the most beautiful countries around. There's it's the magnificent landscapes and cultures. Yeah.
Absolutely. But Frank, is there anything that you'd like to say before we end the interview? Anything for, people who are tuning in right now?
No, not really. Any young entrepreneurial freelancers that are looking for more opportunities, so drop me a message, and anyone interested in collaborating, then feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Lovely.
And if you need any ideas for strategic communication marketing, then I'm always happy to share them.
Okay, super. Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you for joining us at Machine Lab. And I really
Awesome.
hope that we can stay in touch with you and talk to you soon. Take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks. You're a very impressive interviewer.
Thank you so
Very
much,
good.
Frank. You speak very well.
I hope. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, but thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time to give me the thank you for the opportunity as well.
Thank you, Frank. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.